Hello, I'm Miranda, and today I'm going to be reviewing White Dwarf issue number 493. Alright, we've got the Tyranid themed issue this go around. I know my friend Paul will be very excited about the color choice on here. All purple all the time going on. To start off, we've got Lyle Lowry, the chief editor of this magazine. Hi, Lyle. He is, in the beginning, talks a little bit about the end of the Bunker Combat Patrol campaign and the beginning of the Age of Sigmar Slide Crowned Isle campaign. But if you were participating in the Bunker Combat Patrol missions, they do want to hear your feedback on that and see how your team shaped up. So make sure to submit that to the team at whitedwarf.co.uk. The featured letter this month comes from Dan out of Australia as he talks about painting on the go and having sort of a mobile painting kit with you so that you can get your hobby time in the little slivers of time you might have, namely lunch breaks. But I guess it's a good idea if you're trying to get a lot done and you don't necessarily have the opportunity to be at home and sitting on your desk and having your specific hobby area ready to go. A lot of times we just spend a lot of time away from home, so mobile painting kit, kind of clever idea. The Worlds of Warhammer talks about an exploration of Akshi? Am I saying that right? It's the realm of fire. So this is in the Age of Sigmar, and it's a little descriptor of the different areas in the realm of Akshi. So I got to learn a little bit about snow peaks and Sulfuria, Truce Break, Voyager's End, and Last Stand, which is great because I don't know very much about Age of Sigmar, and this is kind of fun for filling in the details. Hopefully they will bring more articles like this in the future, so if this is the type of thing you like, I know White Dwarf wants to hear it because then they know to keep putting that in the magazine. Okay, so the access granted bunker portion, like I mentioned, they're doing a new campaign called the Slide Crowned Isle. It's actually a narrative campaign in the Age of Sigmar, and that's being headed up by Leela Craven, who has written out an entire narrative and has made it very casual and easy to go into. You can have people who are, trying to protect the Slide Crown, people who are trying to destroy the Slide Crown, people who are trying to just profiteer in between. So you can kind of decide your level of interest and where you want to side. If you're on the rogue, profiteering side, you can actually switch sides from game to game. Otherwise, you would be committed to one side or the other, which can be helpful because you have a whole team that you'd be working with, where the rogues are always going to be free agents. And they make use of, I think, a Discord group to help keep people who are on the actual team side connected with each other. And so, yeah, it'll be fun to read through the narrative campaign as that unfolds over the next few months. And this is technically the October issue. I know this is coming out in November. Sorry. But the challenge for October is to paint up psychers, sorcerers, and the supernatural. Another cool thing about the Slide Crowned Sundering campaign is that in this issue you actually get a wither vein? Yes, a wither vein. So there's this little doodad that you get to put together, and that will change from game to game as the campaign progresses to preservation of the Slide Crown to obliteration of the Slide Crown. So that's kind of a way you can also track it. It just makes it a little more fun because who doesn't love a doodad? And the first stage of the Slide Crowned Sundering is traverse the forest. So you're either preserving the forest or burning down the forest or just plundering the forest, depending on where you fall. And a new 40k mission this go around, suffer no rivals. So there is a rule called priority targets, where the players pick 2 units in their own army to be designated as priority targets, and if they are destroyed by the enemy during the game, there are additional VPs for it. A new battle plan for Age of Sigmar, Triumph and Treachery. Then there is a Warcry article here called the Sundered Scales, in which players have a whole set of rules to fight over a magic crown. So you can either make one yourself or just imagine a fun one. But it comes with several different artifacts and special abilities that you can add to your game. And now for one of my favorite articles in White Dwarf, basic training. So Sam Pearson talks about something I think we can all relate to, learning from your mistakes on the battlefield. So I feel like there are several scenarios here that we can all relate to. And as always in these articles, it gives you a game state scenario and asks you how you would choose to proceed as just a thought exercise. And at the very back of the magazine, it goes over several different options for how you could proceed on that game state and then what they suggest would be the best way forward. What kind of battlefield mistakes can we all relate to? Let's see here. Mistake number 1, committing too early. I feel like we've all had that experience where you where you feel like you're gonna get a good alpha strike and nothing goes the way you want. Mistake number 2, leaving support units exposed. You might think you've got them in a safe area and they can either get deep strike and murdered or sniped out from a distance, and if you are relying on those for synergistic buffs, that can really mess up your game. Mistake number 3, not looking at the bigger picture. And I feel like we can all get a little bit tunnel visioned, either go on a revenge spree because some important model to you was lost, or you're totally obsessively focused about what you think might be the scariest thing on your opponent's army and just maybe focus too much on that instead of how best to take objectives, because obviously this is much more of an objective-based game these days. So always good stuff with the basic training. All right, I'm going to interrupt myself for a minute here and just say that if you are enjoying this content and you do enjoy my White Dwarf reviews, definitely make sure to let me know by leaving a like and ideally leaving a comment. I'd love to know what your favorite article is in this magazine, if you like the basic training as much as I do, or if you're more of a fan of the hobby hangouts, or if you're really into the whole bunker stuff. Just what is it you like about White Dwarf? Definitely make sure to comment. I do try to engage and respond to everybody in there. But yeah, so back to the review. Next up, we've got a hobby hangout with Lewis Collins, going over painting the Tyranids, the many Tyranids. Looks like he's mostly working with a Termagant here, and I feel like batch painting is the order of the day when it comes to swarm armies like this. He's got some really cool paint jobs of the newer models, including some really fun basing he's done. All right, the satellite uplink, which is a focus on one of the bunkers in the Warhammer bunker world, which again can be worldwide, but they're actually focusing on their home base this go around, the actual Warhammer studio. And I think the reason they picked this month is because they concluded their whole combat patrol campaign, and they can kind of speak to the results of that. And they actually had some really fun figures in here. There were about 191 games played with 1,105 units slain. So that was a very busy 3 months over at the Warhammer studio. So if you weren't getting your rules errata, you can blame it on this. Jumping into the Age of Sigmar, there is a mission called Traverse the Forest, which of course is going to be part of the Slide Crown Sundering, because that's all in the AOS world. That's going to be Warcry as well as actual Age of Sigmar games. In this case, you have 3 different battle plans, and then there are these twists. So whoever has the least amount of, I believe, victory points each turn gets to roll on this twist table to see what occurs. And I think it's the way to kind of keep the game interesting and prevent a blowout from happening one way or the other. Then there's a short story called The Venter's Manse, which is about a discovery of some tainted wine that appears to be the beginning of a much deeper mystery. Then a spotlight on the Idoneth Deepkin, so water folk. There's a whole paint guide and how to build your army guide in here. So it's a fun little spotlight on these models. And of course, a bajillion gorgeously painted models, which I know nothing about. You get to play eels. I see eels. A lot of eels in here.
Eels. Eels.
You get to learn about fun things like eels. I love the Age of Sigmar stuff because the models seem to gravitate well toward being very colorful and very bright. And of course, you know, I play Grimdark, so the bright colors seem to kind of feel very appealing as maybe just a palette cleanser. Next up, we've got an article called Courage and Cruelty, which introduces 2 new warbands. We've got the Cunnin Killers and Firestarters, also known as the Cruel Boys Monster Killers, and the Vulcan Flame Seekers. And the next segment in the Tale of 4 Warlords is out. The October challenge being to paint a new unit or just add new units to our existing force, or paint an entire 2nd combat patrol box, which I don't think anyone in here actually did. We've got a little chime in from the World Eaters, the Leagues of Votan, the Death Guard, and of course, my personal favorite, the Astra Militarum. I'm rooting for you, Andy. All right, next up, we follow a short story with the Tome Keepers. It is a continuation of an earlier story about the Tome Keepers fighting against the Tyranids, and well, they're still dealing with those Tyranids. And the Tome Keepers are fun because they are very into learning new things about the Xeno species so that they can better defeat them, which is kind of considered borderline heretical to some other people who don't really understand what it is they're doing. But the Tome Keepers are fun. They keep incredibly detailed descriptions and diaries and manifestos, I guess, about all previous battles so that they can always go back and study them. I also appreciate that one of the Tome Keepers' mantras is apparently strike hard, strike without mercy, which sounds a lot like strike first, strike hard, no mercy. And then next up, we've got crusade rules for those Tome Keepers. So if you are interested in playing said models, you have some crusade rules that you can enjoy. Then we have an article called Wings of Vengeance, which explores the jump packs of the Adeptus Astartes. It is a several-page article talking about the origins and the applications and how they're modified by the different chapters, and it's a really interesting read that just helps, just helps render the world and makes Space Marines feel really cool. Then we've got a Legions Imperialis battle report here. We have got the Blood Angels versus the Death Guard. So if you are a fan of the Legions Imperialis, you've got a whole battle report in here you can check out. Then for you Horus Heresy fans, there is an article called Full Scale War, which talks about crossover campaign rules. So you can play over the Horus Heresy Legion Imperialis, also Horus Heresy Age of Darkness, and Horus Heresy Aeronautica. And the rules here allow for crossover so you can enjoy all of those games in this campaign. And then for another one of my favorite segments, the Black Library article follows a great kitchen master named Silas Ignatius, as he has run a kitchen for a very long time, and he wasn't a great guy, isn't a great guy, it's a whole thing. And it's very well described and kind of gross. All right, and that concludes my White Dwarf issue 493 review. Definitely let me know what your favorite article in here was, and are you going to be participating in the Slide Crown Sundering campaign? Because I know some people have done the combat patrol part, but now that that's pretty much done, are you going to be participating in the new narrative? Is the fact that it is a narrative a little bit more appealing to you or less? Please let me know in the comments, and then like the video if you haven't already, subscribe if you like, and thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.